Hi, this is Tom Uford, the Tampa Coffee Examiner, and in this video I'm going to show you how I roast my coffee beans. Most important item to have first are green coffee beans. These are the Costa Rica Don Mayo La Ponderosa Bourbon coffee beans. Second is an appliance to roast it. I'm using a Fresh Roast Plus 8. You can do this a variety of different ways. I just happen to like using this particular appliance. It fits my needs and it fit my budget. Once we roast it, we're going to cool it in a colander, and then we'll let it rest inside this vacuum seal bag that has a one-way gas valve that lets the gases escape, the carbon dioxide escape as the coffee beans rest and age for 24 to 48 hours before we'll drink it. So first thing I do is I like to measure out the coffee beans. I use a gram scale. For this particular appliance, I measure out 64 grams of green coffee beans. It's just about right. Now take off the chaff collector. This, as the coffee beans roast, there's a paper skin that comes off the green beans, and that's called chaff, and that gets collected up in this top collector here. Just pour the green beans into this glass. This is a glass container with the air vent in the bottom. What this roaster does is push hot air through this little column, this glass column. It's called a fluid bed, and that's what roasts the beans. Now this 64 grams of green coffee beans will actually, when it's roasted and the water has evaporated, it'll come down to about 56 grams, and that is the perfect amount to make two 16-ounce cups of coffee. Now we're just going to turn the machine on. It's just a simple dial. Turn it on to 8 minutes. As the air heats up, the beans will start to jump up and down inside the colander, inside the glass tube there, the column. See if we can focus in a little bit more on that. Since this is such a small amount of green beans, it won't take more than 6 minutes to do a complete roast. As the hot air gets hotter and moves through the beans will begin to get lighter because the water will evaporate, and they'll also start changing color. Right now they're still green. And as the coffee roasts, sometimes you'll get like a bready, like a warm bread smell to it as it moves through its different stages of roasting. Like I said earlier, these beans are from Costa Rica. I got them from Sweet Maria's. SweetMarias.com is the website. I get a lot of my coffee beans from that vendor. They have good quality, excellent variety, and great shipping, customer service. As I'm looking at the beans now, they're starting to turn into a tan color, Get a little bit more movement in the column. I can see some of the chaff starting to come off of the beans. We're about 2 minutes into the roast. At around the 4-minute mark, I expect to start hearing a popping sound. That's called first crack. There's 2 different cracks when you're roasting. First crack is a very, very slow, loud, like popcorn almost sound. And then second crack is a lot faster and sometimes a little bit harder to hear. I generally don't roast my coffee beans much past second crack. For the most part, I'm somewhere in between first crack and second crack. I like the coffee beans that have a medium brown color to them. In the coffee industry, that's considered a City Plus. There's different varieties of roast, different stages of roast, and that one is considered City Plus. The beans are starting to get a little bit darker now. They're jumping up and down much faster. Some of the other ways you can roast coffee beans is you can do it on stove in a pan. Just stir the beans around under some low heat. You can use a heat gun and just a metal bowl. That's known as the heat gun dog bowl method. Just use any type of heat gun you can get at a hardware store, and just apply the hot air and get a stirring stick, stir it around inside a metal bowl so that it reflects the heat, and you can do up to a pound at a time. There's also bigger appliances that you can use, or you can, if you're handy and you have a propane grill, you can with a rotisserie attachment, you can make your own drum and do a drum roast over an open flame. We're right at the 4-minute mark on the roast. The beans are getting a bit darker. They're still very light, but they are getting darker, and I'm just starting to hear first crack. Also, as far as aromas go, I'm starting to get a coffee flavor now instead of a baking bread flavor. I don't know if they can actually hear the crack or not. I'll see if I can bring the appliance closer to the camera. We're almost 6 minutes into the roast, and perhaps you've heard some of the cracks, the pops from the coffee beans as the water is escaping and the beans are expanding. We're just about 6 minutes into the roast, and I'm going to shut it down just about now. Now you probably saw some of the chaff come out. If we look inside, there's the paper skin that comes off the coffee beans. That's called chaff, and it gets collected in this device here. Might have seen, you can see some of the smoke coming out of the roast. And now I'm going to put these beans in the colander to cool off. See if we can get a good idea of the color on these beans. This is how I prefer most of my coffee beans. This is the degree of roast that I happen to enjoy a lot of the beans at. Kind of just let the air, it's a little bit windy here today, so get some good airflow through the colander, cool off the beans. Once these beans are cooled, I'll put them in this plastic bag that has a one-way valve right here, so that the carbon dioxide that is expelled by the roasting process can lead the bag through the valve, and no oxygen can get in to spoil the coffee. Now that I've roasted this coffee, I'll let it rest for about 24 to 48 hours. Probably closer to 24, since I don't have any fresh coffee in the house. I just came back from vacation. And once it's roasted, you really should consume all of your coffee within 3 or 4 days, in my opinion. Otherwise, it'll start to go stale. Once you do a lot of home roasting at home, you'll really appreciate a fresh cup of coffee so much more, that you really just want to make sure you have the freshest coffee available for your personal consumption. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I hope to have some more. We'll do some tasting, some cuppings, and we'll take a look at some other varieties of coffee beans, etc. Thank you very much.